Hey guys, and welcome to Ozzie Reviews, and welcome to this month's Q&A. Now this is where you guys get to ask a whole heap of questions, so if you do support me on Patreon, all you need to do is when I post each month asking for questions, is you just simply put your questions there and I'll answer them as best as I can in this monthly edition. So let's get straight on into the questions for this month. So the first question here is from Stephen Cox, and he wants to know what do I do with my scope rings when I'm tightening them, and then you tighten them down and then it can interfere with the alignment of the actual scope. So good question, mate. Basically, depending on the type of rings that I've got, I mean, if we could all afford those tier 1 rings with the leveling wedge, I mean, this wouldn't be a problem. But for just normal hunting rifles and stuff like that, when we just got a set of loopholed rings or whatever you've got, this is an important thing to be aware of. So yeah, as you're tightening those screws down, I mean, if you tighten one side of it first all the way and then go to tighten the other side, yeah, your scope will be out of alignment, because as the rings tighten down, they can turn the tube a bit on that scope. So how do you fix that? Well, you can only do as much as you can. So what I usually do is, say for example, like a lot of the hunting scope rings that I use have 2 screws each side of the ring, so 4 screws all up. So what I do is, like, I'll go like the top right screw and I'll just turn that down a little bit, not tight or anything like that, just down gradually, and then the same with the bottom left, and then the top left, and then the bottom right, that sort of thing. So I go from side to side, and what I do is just gradually turn it down, okay, do it the other side. So in other words, you're trying to get an even tightness and adjustment on those screws on the rings. So that's all I do. Seems to work real well. Sometimes I've had to readjust, once I've tightened it all down. But so long as you get those screws pretty much even, you're not going to have a problem. So I hope that helps. Now the next question here is from F-Tops, and he wants to know about my recommendation for a first shotgun. He wants to use it as a hunting gun as well as a general plinking one, and was leaning towards some of the straight pull shotguns over the lever action shotguns, and was also interested in a side-by-side shotgun, and has a budget basically of $1,200. Mate, man after my own heart. I mean, if you like the side-by-side shotguns, I absolutely love them. Just something about them, a little bit of nostalgia, I guess. I've used plenty of under and overs, and I know they're great shotguns, but I just love the side-by-side shotguns myself. So, my experience with them, look, I've had Boydos. I mean, they're only cheap, made in Brazil, I think, from memory. But look, they do the job. I've had them on the farm for many years, and look, never had a problem with them. They just do the job. So you can look at one of them. That definitely won't break your budget there. Or if you want to go up a little bit, have a look, and a lot of people don't know that this is available, is the CZ ring neck. Okay, so CZ, who make the really high quality 22s, they also make a side-by-side shotgun. So obviously it's going to be fairly good quality, because they're well known for making those quality firearms at an affordable price. So have a look at one of them as well. If you're going more, when you're saying a hunting shotgun, if you're going more for like pigs or something, you're going to come across a mob of, I would be definitely looking at something more than a side-by-side, so in other words, you've got more than those 2 shots. So definitely a straight pull shotgun, 5 in the magazine, 1 up the spout, so 6 shots all up. That will definitely change the amount of ferrules you'll get in the single encounter, rather than just going bang bang with 2 shots. You've got a lot more there, to take maximum numbers. So I hope that helps you out. Jacob Major asked the next question of what are my thoughts on using lapping compound to smooth out the action in a Ruger American 22 LR. Would it be safe to use? Look, mate, I personally have never had to use lapping compound. I can't see why it would be needed on a Ruger American 22. I mean, I've still got my Ruger American 22, and I mean, it's fine. I don't have any problem whatsoever with that action. The more I've used it, it just becomes smoother. So my advice on that would be just get out and just use it more, and you'll find that it just smooths it right up anyway with repetitive use. For that firearm, I definitely can't see the purpose of it. I think you'd be just wasting money, to be honest, mate. Now the next question here is from Jason Corelli. I hope I said that correct, Jason. He says, "Hi Ozzie, just wondering what your favourite piece of equipment is and what's your most useful piece of equipment and why." When he says equipment, he doesn't mean a firearm or scope. It means accessories or stuff that I've got when I'm out in the field. So mate, I do use rangefinders a fair bit. I've got the Loophole 1200 TBR. I mean, great little rangefinder. It's not something that I use all the time. It's more just when I'm doing long range reviews. But the one piece of equipment that I've always got with me, some people may laugh, but it's the little Black Hawk Hornet 2 folding knife. Now, this is one of my first reviews, this little knife, and I've still got it. And I don't know what it is about it. It's just a nice little compact knife, and I've always got it, whether I'm cutting, bales of hay, or I've had it when I'm been out fishing. I've been out when I'm out hunting. I just like this knife. It's just got the serrated edges at the bottom of the blade there, so you can cut through things no problem. I just like it. It's simple. It just clips onto the belt or in your pocket, and it's just something that I've found through all the years that even when I've looked at different knives and I've got different folding knives and all this sort of stuff, I just really like these. They're not that expensive and they do the job. So this would probably be the piece of equipment that I use and have with me the most. So the next question here is from Edward Gayton. He says, "Hey Ozzie, I'm turning 18 next year and will be getting my firearms license. So what make and caliber would you recommend for a first rifle? I'd prefer it to be easy on the wallet, but want it to be a quality firearm that will last a long time. Also something that will allow me to shoot longer range and feral pigs. Cheers, love the channel." Well mate, straight away the big thing that's quite obvious to me is sticking with mainstream calibers. If you want to be able to have something that's easy on the wallet, 223, 308. Once you start sort of varying from those calibers, like if you go 270, even 6.5 Creedmoor, the price of the ammunition doubles and triples. So I would probably say 308. I'm not sure how long range you're talking about when you say longer range. I'm assuming 500 or more yards anyway, maybe out to 1,000. Definitely want to be using 308 for that. Although if you just want something that you can go out to the range, and have a bit of a plink with and a bit of fun, out at 400 or 500 yards, depending on what distance your local range is, and something that's going to take feral pigs. I mean, look, you can do that with the 223, no problem at all. It just really depends on where you're going. I mean, if you're going for big pigs up at the Cape, here in Queensland, I would definitely be saying 308, because you want something that's going to knock the pigs down, and they're a lot bigger and heavier. So if it's something that's maybe on like a local farm or something like that, and there's just sort of small to medium pigs getting around, you can do it with the 223 with the correct shot placement and also the correct ammunition. So yeah, that's basically my choice there, 308 or 223. Now depending on how you're actually going to be hunting, now if you're going to be getting around the firearms coming up to the shoulder all the time, you want something that's lightweight for walking around. Mate, look, there's so many out there. I mean, if you go with any of the Tikka rifles, I mean, they're quality. The Tikka Light or Hunters or something like that, you're going to have something that's nice and lightweight. It's not going to weigh you down, provided you get a lightweight scope with it, and that'll suit you just fine for many, many years to come. If you wanted something where you can set up prone, or you're going to be just waiting for game to come in, I mean, look at the Lithgows as well. I mean, great rifle, a little bit more on the heavy side. They're definitely not like a lightweight walk-around rifle, even though you can walk around with them. What I'm saying is if you're going to be trekking really long distance, I wouldn't recommend them over a more lightweight, specific hunter or sporter type firearm. Okay, so I don't know what your budget is, but Tikka, Lithgow, I mean, geez, mate, honestly, you could go and get yourself even a Ruger American, 308 or 223, and you're going to have yourself something that's lightweight. I mean, reviewed that one in 223, and that thing was just ridiculously accurate with those 55 grain Game Kings from OSA. So really light on the wallet there. I mean, they're well under $1 a shot. Fantastic, great projectile and everything, and you will easily take pegs with the correct shot placement with them. So that's just a few ideas for you. I hope that helps you out. Now, next question here is from James Irvine. He says, any chance of doing a review on the OAF Riverman straight pull in 223, and particularly the 300 blackout? Well, mate, look, there's a few things going on with that at the moment. I don't know exactly the finer details, but from what I've been told, at the present time, customs aren't allowing it to be imported. So they allowed the first batch, but now there's some sort of argument about subsequent batches. I really don't know the finer details. However, hopefully it'll be sorted out soon and we'll see those rifles coming in. So if we do see them coming in and they're going to be a regular thing in the future, I'll definitely have a look at reviewing one. So the next question I've got here is from Daniel Webb, and he asks, should a new rimfire caliber have the barrel broken in the same as a new centrefire? Now, look, mate, if we're talking like just a 22, for example, the way I do it is you just use it. It's simple as that. A lot of the time, like especially with a 22, it needs a couple of mags put through before it starts shooting very accurately. A lot of the time, okay? There's exceptions to it, but this is a general rule that I've found through my experience of using different rimfire calibers. What you'll find then is once you start shooting with it, once you start getting up to a couple hundred rounds, I do find that I want to start, just giving it a bit of a clean out. And now I don't want to take it all the way back, so all I really do is just get some G96, spray it down the bore there, and just get a single patch, just push it out, so any excess garbage will just come out, and then just start shooting again. So it's not the same as when you're shooting a centrefire. You don't get that copper fouling for a start. Complete different story. If you're going up to like the 1.7 WSN, that's moving like 3,000 feet a second, look, just do the same thing, run a few mags through it till you find it's shooting fairly acceptable to your level. But with that, I found honestly every sort of 100 rounds I'd just patch out with it. Okay, when I say patch out with it, just put a bit of G96 down, throw a patch through it. But then when I finish shooting for the day, I'd actually use that foam bore cleaner that I had in my beginner series. I'd actually put that through it, okay, just to really get into it, and then patch it out, then finish it just with a bit of G96. So hope that answers your question, mate. The next question I've got here is from Ellis. He says, hey Ozzie, just wanted to get your opinion on a safe for a new shooter. I'm interested in a solution which is compliant for Queensland and is suitable for my AB licence application, as well as storing long arms and handguns. I'm on a bit of a budget with this, so I do have a homemade solid steel safe with one compartment. The lock, however, might not be sturdy enough. It's a deadbolt style lock, single bolt, and the door is flat against the frame, which means it could be prone to prying. The safe itself is solid steel, approximately 10mm thick, with a 5mm door. What are your thoughts? Mate, to be quite honest, I really wouldn't be looking at a new safe. If you've got something there that's 10mm thick with a 5mm door, I mean that far exceeds any of the requirements, for A, B, C, D, and H firearms here in Queensland. So, all I would be doing, I'm just trying to work out where that single, deadlock or bolt is. Is it just coming across from the actual lock, like horizontally, or are we talking like a vertical deadbolt? I'm not too sure, but either way, all I would do is, if you want to fix that, either put in another lock top and bottom to prevent the prying, or perhaps you can put like a latch on the outside with a lock or something, just to add that little bit extra security or something. But I don't know without sort of seeing it. I'm trying to picture it, but to be honest, why would you go wasting another $500 odd on getting a safe with like a 2mm thick door, which most of them are. They're only like 1 to 2mm thick, unless you're paying a lot of dollars, and then you'll go right up. The thickness of the solid steel safe that you've got, I'd be just enhancing that, mate, because it's not going to cost you much to do it. So the next question here is from Cam, and he asked a couple of questions. The first one is about purchasing firearms interstate and how you go about doing it. So the short answer for that, mate, is if it's a private sale, for example, so you arrange payment to that private seller. So say, for example, you're in Queensland and you purchase a firearm from New South Wales from a private seller. So what you do is you actually pay them for it. They then take it into their local dealer, and their local dealer ships it up to your local dealer here in Queensland. Once it arrives here in Queensland, that's when you then go into your local dealer, with a permit to acquire that particular firearm. Okay, so that's how it works. Same if you're buying from a dealer interstate as well. You can't just get a permit to acquire here in Queensland to purchase from a dealer in New South Wales. What you need to do is ring that dealer in New South Wales and tell them that you're situated here in Queensland. You pay them for the firearm, they then ship it to your nominated dealer, where you then walk in with a permit to acquire that firearm. So I hope that makes sense. Basically, the golden rule is everything must go through a dealer. Okay. Unfortunately, you can't just get a permit to acquire and go to an interstate dealer and purchase. That's not how it works. If you're on a Queensland license, everything must go through the local dealer or a Queensland dealer in general. Next part of your question is, this is going to be quite interesting to a lot of people, I'm sure, who are starting out. You ask, what's the difference between fixed and variable scopes? And then there's a whole heap of questions about the specs and what they mean. So let's start off at the top here. So the difference between a fixed power and variable power is exactly that. The magnification on a fixed scope doesn't change, it's set. So for example, if you buy a 6x42 fixed power scope, it's on 6 power magnification, that can't change. A variable power scope, so for example, one of the most popular you'll see is a 3 to 9x40 or 3 to 9x42. Now that means that the magnification can change from 3 up to 9 power, okay, and everything in between. So for example, if you're going out hunting, a lot of the time I use my 3 to 9 scopes on about 5 to 6 power, and then if I'm sighting in, I want to get some really fine, accurate shots, so I'll increase that magnification to 9 power. So that's the difference there. Price difference, usually variable scopes are a little bit more in price, but I mean, look, they're so common now, the prices are very affordable, and they're more just to cater for every situation. Just like I said, you can go hunting, yet if you're on the range, you can wind the magnification up and shoot for those finer shots. Now you ask here, how do I interpret the adjustment click value of 0.25 MOA? Okay, so let's talk about MOA, minute of angle it stands for. So MOA basically is 1 inch at 100 yards. If you go out to 200 yards, 2 inches, 300 yards, 3 inches, okay, it increases that way. So when you have a scope with a quarter MOA adjustment, which you're talking about here, so 0.25 MOA click adjustment. So on that elevation or windage turret on that scope, as you're clicking it, okay, so if you click 4 times, click, 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 okay, that's 1 MOA of adjustment. So depending on what distance you're shooting at, so if you're shooting at 100 yards and you've done those 4 clicks, you've then changed those actual crosshairs in whichever direction you're moving them in to 1 inch of difference, if that makes sense, okay? So for example, you're changing it to the right, and you want to move 1 inch, okay? So you'll click, okay, 4 clicks to do that. If it's at 200 yards, well, obviously it's then going to be double, okay? So if you're moving 4 clicks there, it's going to be 2 inches. Because why? Because MOA at 200 is 2 inches, okay? 1 MOA that is. So I hope I haven't confused you too much there, but that's how it works. Now the adjustment range on a scope, for example, you've said here, what does it mean when there's 57 MOA? Okay, so that's your total adjustment range. So usually you'll find that on the elevation, because the windage adjustment generally isn't as high as what the elevation is. Especially with long range scopes, you'll have more elevation, obviously, to get out to those longer ranges than what you will with a lot of the cheaper or hunting type scopes, okay? So 57 MOA, well, what's that going to be in inches at 100? Well, it's going to be 57 inches, isn't it? So if you then go out to 200, well, you've got to double it, Okay, so 57 MOA at 200 is going to be 114 inches. Okay, so that's what that's talking about. That's your total adjustment range of what you can adjust that scope for. Now your field of view, you've put here, I'm not sure which scope you're talking about, but obviously you've written it down from one of the specs of the scope. You've got field of view 11 to 29.8 foot at 100 yards. Okay, so on a variable scope here, okay, your field of view is going to change. So in other words, let's just think of looking downrange at 100 yards. Now, if you've got a 3 to 9 by 40 scope, okay, and you've got the magnification set on 3 power, well, obviously, what you're viewing in your field of view is quite large, okay? So that's probably where it'll be the 29.8 foot or feet with your field of view. But as you wind that magnification up, obviously everything increases, okay? So as that picture increases, your field of view becomes more narrow. So that's where, say for example, you're at 9 power, you might only have 11 feet of field of view there. So that's why I often say about when you're out hunting, that's why you need to actually wind your scope back to like that, 4, 5, 6 power, so that you've got that bigger field of view. Because when you're actually shooting in your tracking game on the run, if you've got it wound, I mean even at 9 power, but if you've got it wound right up like 12, 16, depending on the magnification of your scope, your field of view is so narrow that when that game or when the game runs, you lose it. You lose your sight picture, and then you've got to put the scope down and look with your naked eye to see where the game has run. Where if you knock it back down in magnification to 4, 5, or 6 power, you've got a bigger field of view and you can track the game a lot easier. So I hope that makes sense to you there. Very much the same with the eye relief here. You're asking about the difference here, 4.4 to 3.6 inches. Usually what will happen is the eye relief on virtually most variable scopes will change as you move through the magnification range. Have you noticed when I actually do scope reviews and I use that scope cam and I go through the magnification range, there becomes a bit of blackness over the field of view, because what's happening is the eye relief is changing. So where I've had that camera focused, all of a sudden that distance is changing. And it's only small, you're looking at what here, 1.2 inches in difference. However, that is a difference when you're out shooting. So you've got to work out where you're going to set your scope to in its actual physical position on those rings on top of your rifle, to where you're going to be using that scope on whatever magnification, if that makes sense. So, it's not that difficult. There's a little bit of a science to it, but it's about adjusting it all to what suits you the best, and then just going from there. A bit of trial and error in it. So mate, I hope that answers your question with that. Okay guys, so that finishes up this month's Q&A. So thanks very much to all of you who have submitted questions, and we'll catch you on the next edition.